The candles flickered against the pale walls as I stood frozen, my wedding dress heavy with unspoken fears. Laughter echoed from the hallway, but it wasn't the warm laughter I had dreamt of. It was sharp, cruel, and carried his voice. My heart pounded, fighting the tears threatening to ruin my carefully painted smile. I had imagined this night would be the beginning of forever, yet in that single moment, I felt small, exposed, and painfully alone. What happened behind those closed doors shattered more than just my hopes. It broke the quiet faith I'd held in love itself. You're listening to the Untold Love, where real hearts speak their truths. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. I've always believed that love had a way of finding people when they least expected it. For as long as I can remember, I'd been the girl with a quiet heart, the one who stood in the corner of crowded rooms, watching other people's stories unfold like little miracles. I wanted that kind of connection, the kind that makes you feel seen, understood, and safe all at once, but I didn't know if it was meant for me. Then one rainy afternoon, everything changed. I ducked into a small coffee shop to escape the storm, shivering as I clutched my umbrella. The place smelled of cinnamon and old books, and there he was, Ethan. He was sitting by the window, a faint smile tugging at his lips as he read something on his phone. When our eyes met, something subtle and unexplainable passed between us. Like a quiet spark you only notice once it's already lit. He stood, offered me a dry napkin for my dripping hair, and with an easy warmth said, "Looks like the weather's been unkind today." That simple kindness melted the space between us. We started talking, first about the rain, then about favorite books, childhood stories, and the way we both secretly loved old songs more than anything on the charts. Hours slipped by without either of us noticing. From that day on, Ethan and I found excuses to see each other again. Long walks through autumn parks, shared desserts we swore we'd only taste, late-night calls where his laughter filled the silence I hadn't realized lived inside me. He was thoughtful in ways I wasn't used to, remembering details I barely mentioned, encouraging my dreams when I was too shy to speak them aloud. But love, I learned, isn't always just gentle. There were moments when I wondered if someone like him, with his confidence and quiet charisma, could truly belong with someone as uncertain as me. I wrestled with a voice inside that warned happiness like this was too good to last. Yet, every time doubt tried to pull me back, Ethan would look at me with a steady calm, as if he already knew I was worth holding on to. Looking back now, I can still feel the quiet magic of those first months, the way every message felt like a gift, every glance like a promise. I didn't know then that beginnings can sometimes hold the seeds of endings, too. All I knew was that, in Ethan, I had found someone who made the world seem just a little softer, a little kinder, and infinitely more alive. Planning a wedding is supposed to be stressful, but for me it felt like a series of small, beautiful steps toward a life I'd only dared to imagine. After Ethan proposed beneath a sky dusted with stars, I spent days floating between excitement and disbelief. I'd catch myself tracing the curve of the ring on my finger, as if touching it might anchor the happiness rushing through me. Olivia, my oldest friend, became my unofficial planner. She had a knack for turning simple ideas into magic, picking flowers that felt alive with color, suggesting songs that made even rehearsal dinners sound like love stories. Mark, Ethan's best friend, teased us about our endless lists, but he showed up every time, arms full of boxes or laughter, ready to help. Those moments felt like little snapshots of a family forming around us. Ethan surprised me most. I had expected him to leave the details to me, but he leaned in fully, testing cake flavors, sketching ideas for the invitations, even helping me choose the right shade of blush for the table linens. Sometimes we'd stay up late, side by side on the living room floor, surrounded by scraps of paper and half-finished plans, laughing over how hopeless we were at folding place cards. Yet beneath all the warmth, I carried a quiet tremor of fear. A part of me wondered if I truly deserved the joy I was building, if somewhere ahead the rug would be pulled from under my feet. I tried to hide it behind lists and errands, but Ethan sensed it. One evening, after a long day of venue visits, he pulled me close and brushed his thumb along my cheek. "You don't have to be perfect for this to be real," he whispered. "We're building something together, that's what matters." Those words settled into me like a soft heartbeat. They reminded me that love isn't about flawless plans or spotless courage. It's about showing up, choosing each other even when the future feels uncertain. As the big day drew closer, our lives filled with the hum of preparation, fabric swatches, music rehearsals, handwritten vows tucked secretly away. Every detail felt like a thread weaving us closer, stitching together not just a wedding, but the beginning of a home, a story, a promise I wanted so desperately to keep. The morning of our wedding felt like a dream stitched out of gold. Sunlight streamed through the curtains of my room, painting everything in a soft glow, as though even the day itself wanted to bless us. Olivia and I shared quiet laughter while she helped me into my gown, her hand steady despite the tears glistening in her eyes. My heart raced, but in the most hopeful way. I kept thinking, this is it. This is the start of everything I've ever wanted. When I finally saw Ethan waiting at the altar, my breath caught. He looked breathtaking in his tailored suit, eyes fixed on me with an expression I couldn't quite read, something between awe and thoughtfulness. I chose to believe it was love, and perhaps it was. As we exchanged vows, I felt a calm I'd never known settle deep inside me, as if I'd finally stepped into the life I'd been waiting for. Yet as the day unfolded, I couldn't shake an undercurrent of unease. Small things I might normally overlook began to gather weight, the way Ethan lingered on his phone during the reception, the hushed tone of his voice as he slipped outside for a call. At one point, I caught him standing alone near the garden, his gaze somewhere far away, lips curved in a smile that didn't seem meant for me. I tried to brush it off, told myself every groom gets overwhelmed, that nerves can make people act strangely. Still, the feeling clung to me like a thin shadow stretching across the light. Even when we danced under strings of fairy lights, when our guests clapped and cheered as we spun together, a quiet part of me wondered if I was missing something just beneath the surface. Later, as the crowd thinned and the music softened, I watched Ethan from across the room. He was laughing with Mark, but there was a flicker, something quick and unreadable, that passed over his face when he thought no one was looking. I wanted to walk over, to ask if he was okay, but fear of sounding insecure kept me still. I told myself tomorrow would be different, that this night would settle into the story I'd always dreamed of. But somewhere deep down, a voice whispered that every perfect picture has its cracks, waiting to be seen. When the last of our guests had gone and the laughter faded into a sleepy hush, Ethan and I finally stepped into the quiet of our suite. I remember how heavy my dress felt then, the beads and lace tugging at my shoulders, as if the day's emotions had woven themselves into the fabric. I expected him to follow close behind, to wrap his arms around me and breathe life into the moment we'd been waiting for. But he lingered at the door, pulling out his phone again. I heard the faint buzz of a message, then his low chuckle, warm but oddly distant. My pulse quickened, not from romance, but from a creeping unease I couldn't name. I slipped off my shoes, letting them tumble softly onto the carpet, and moved toward the balcony to steady myself. The night was cool, stars scattered like tiny promises across the sky. I tried to focus on their calm glow, but voices drifted in from the hallway. A woman's laugh, light, teasing, cut through the quiet. Then Ethan's voice followed, playful and unmistakable. My stomach dropped. I pressed closer to the door, hearing fragments I wished I could unhear. Her name, Rachel, floated through the air, wrapped in a familiarity that stung. They spoke about me, about how serious I'd looked during the ceremony, how naive and my devotion seemed. Rachel's tone was joking, but it carried an edge, and Ethan. He didn't stop her. He laughed softly, as though they shared a secret I could never touch. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The room tilted, and my reflection in the glass looked like a stranger, someone fragile, dressed in white, standing on the edge of a story she didn't understand. I turned away, tears burning behind my eyes, and sank onto the edge of the bed. I wanted to storm out, demand answers, anything, but the weight of humiliation pinned me still. My heart felt raw, torn between anger, sorrow, and a desperate wish to wake from what was unfolding. I had pictured our wedding night as a quiet sanctuary, the beginning of a new chapter. Instead, it felt like a room with too many doors, each one hiding a truth I wasn't sure I was ready to face. For a long time, I sat frozen on the edge of the bed, staring at the soft lamplight pooling across the floor. My hands trembled in my lap, twisting the fabric of my gown. Part of me wanted to pretend I hadn't heard anything, to stay wrapped in the illusion I had built around us. But another part, the quieter and braver one, knew I couldn't let the wound fester in silence. When Ethan finally stepped back into the room, his smile faltered at the sight of me. "Sophia," he said gently, slipping his phone into his pocket, "what's wrong?" I stood, my voice shaking despite every effort to steady it. "Who is Rachel, Ethan? And why were you laughing with her about me?" The words hung between us like shards of glass. For a heartbeat, he said nothing, only rubbed a hand across the back of his neck. "It's not what you think," he began, but I held his gaze, refusing to let him soften the truth. He sighed, shoulders sagging. "Rachel and we dated years ago. She showed up tonight unexpectedly. I wasn't prepared to see her, especially on our wedding day. She made a few comments, and he paused, eyes heavy with regret. I laughed because I didn't know how else to react. I wasn't thinking about how it would sound." His words stung and soothed at once. There was honesty in them, but also a selfishness I couldn't ignore. "Do you have any idea how humiliating that felt?" I whispered. "Tonight was supposed to be ours, Ethan." I felt like I didn't belong in my own story. He stepped closer, slowly, as if approaching a wounded bird. "I was wrong," he admitted. I panicked. Seeing Rachel brought back memories I didn't want, and instead of protecting you, I hid behind a joke. "I never meant to hurt you." Tears blurred my vision, hot and insistent. I wanted to believe him, wanted to let his apology erase the bruise on my heart, but something inside urged caution. Trust, once cracked, doesn't mend in an instant. "I need time," I said quietly, drawing a shaky breath. "I love you, but I won't let myself disappear just to keep the peace." Ethan nodded, eyes glistening. "I'll wait," he murmured. "I'll prove I deserve this chance." And there, amid the tender wreckage of our wedding night, we stood, two people facing the fragile truth between love and the mistakes that threaten it. The hours after our conversation passed in a fragile quiet, like the hush that lingers after a storm. I stood near the balcony, staring at the moonlit garden below, while Ethan sat on the sofa, his head in his hands. We didn't speak for a long time. There was nothing left to explain, only a choice neither of us was ready to rush. I thought about everything we had built, the laughter in coffee shops, the promises whispered under starry skies, the home we'd begun to imagine. Those memories glowed softly inside me, but beside them was the bruise of that moment in the hallway, the echo of my own humiliation. I realized that love, no matter how deep, couldn't erase the need for respect, for safety. Turning toward Ethan, I felt a steadiness settle over me, quiet but firm. "I don't want to give up on us," I said, my voice trembling with both hope and caution. "But I can't pretend tonight didn't happen. I need to know we can build something honest, something that doesn't make me doubt myself." He lifted his head, eyes rimmed with guilt and longing. "I understand," he replied softly. "I don't want you to forget this pain or push it down. I just want the chance to show you that I can be the man you believed in." For a moment, I studied him, the man I had loved, the man who had hurt me without meaning to. The man now asking for the grace to prove himself. My heart pulled in two directions, one urging me to hold on, the other whispering to let go before I lost myself. I chose a middle path. "We start small," I told him. "No sweeping promises, no pretending everything is fixed. You'll have to earn back my trust, Ethan, step by step. And I'll try to keep my heart open. But I won't lose myself again." He nodded slowly, a flicker of determination softening the sorrow on his face. "I'll take whatever you give me," he said. And so, on a night meant for celebration, we found ourselves standing at the fragile edge of something new, not quite an ending, not yet a beginning, but a choice to fight for love with our eyes wide open. When dawn finally crept through the curtains, pale and forgiving, I felt a stillness settle inside me. The chaos of the night had softened into something quieter, a fragile clarity I hadn't known I needed. Ethan was asleep on the sofa, his jacket draped over him like a shield against everything he wished he could take back. For a moment, I simply watched him, wondering how love could be both wound and balm, how two people could hurt and heal each other in the same breath. I slipped out onto the balcony, wrapping my arms around myself as the morning breeze kissed my skin. Below, the garden sparkled with dew, each droplet catching the light like tiny truths waiting to be acknowledged. I realized then that the story we were writing wasn't the flawless fairy tale I'd imagined, it was something raw, tender, and unfinished, demanding courage instead of perfection. I thought about the girl I had been just a day before, full of certainty about what love should look like. That version of me was still here, but she had learned something hard and necessary, to stay true to herself, even when her heart ached to surrender. When Ethan stirred awake and came to stand beside me, he didn't reach for easy words. He simply took my hand, his fingers hesitant yet steady, and looked at me as if asking permission to try again. "I don't know how to fix everything overnight," he said quietly, "but I know I don't want to lose us. I'll keep showing up, if you'll let me." I held his gaze, searching for the sincerity I needed to see. And I found it, not a perfect promise, but an earnest willingness to fight for the love we both still felt. I nodded, slow and deliberate. "We'll move forward," I said, but carefully. "We build trust, one choice at a time." The sun rose higher, casting gold across the balcony, and for the first time since the laughter in the hallway had shattered my night, I felt a faint warmth return to my chest. We weren't healed, not yet. But we had a path, and I had myself. And maybe, that was enough to begin again.